I have sympathy for the Special Victims Unit because there are so many things that they have to investigate, and I think our stats prove that unfortunately it's escalating, especially in the sexual aspect of sexual assault. So asking them to step aside to make these contacts with the government is probably unfair, but it certainly is something our corporate communications can do.
Well, I mean, if these numbers become public and people see for 2006 that we had or were notified or asked to reply 6,191 times, I mean, some of the public would be astonished if they saw these numbers, I think. But I think we have to start raising the awareness of the issue, and so to me, I'd like to see us come back, maybe with your help, Chief, and we structured some kind of a communication piece which would sort of start addressing the whereas issues in this situation.
And I think we've seen the amendments that they've made. If there's some young person that's within earshot of a domestic, we don't really report those anymore. But there was some changes in relation to the Act as far as the doctors reporting it. They changed the definition of it from an actual firm belief to a suspicion.
That's correct.
And that certainly increased but however, they might not end up being sexual assaults. So it's one of those areas, like if you throw the stats out, they may be misleading, and that's one reason they changed the aspect of domestics. So I think if we get a concrete definition of it, might be of a system. Yeah, I would think if you put these out publicly, that would be quite alarming. And I think one thing, if I can add, Mr. Chairman, I know Fred and I went at it up in Hockley Valley about how often we table these reports. I think to start with, we should do this yearly, as opposed to every 2 years, because of the child abuse, the elder abuse, and things like that. So it should be changed from every 2 years to every year. That would be my submission.
Right, so could I ask that the minutes reflect that? Okay, then, thank you very much for being here. Oh, I'm sorry, Councillor Dale.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. One of the comments in the report, and this is from more of a staffing perspective on the Special Investigations Unit, is the extensive training and the amount of interviews that are being done and the length of time. From a critical incident stress management, there's no indication in the report of, first of all, how long a particular officer is in that division, and then the depth of the type of interviews that are being done. Is there support around that through any kind of compliance to support the division in that way?
I'm not exactly clear on your question. As far as the training for the officers?
No. Sorry. If I can interject. I think you mean the psychological aspect of these investigations. That is one consideration in relation to the organizational wellness expansion for peer support will be basically permanent now. So there's somebody going to be involved. Because we've kind of missed that. The officers that are involved in special investigations units, I mean, we take care of the ICE unit, the people there, but there are aspects for child abuse and sexual assault, because I did them for over a year, and they can have an impact on you, and I think we've got to be ever careful of that. So organizational wellness will address that.
Okay. Frank?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair, and I understand where you're coming from with respect to communication and that. I'm just wondering, we heard yesterday at the Regional Council that seems to be obviously a relationship with families of a lower income, and particularly families that there may be more than one or two families living in a residence, like a basement apartment or whatever, accommodations, and they're tight for space, that it creates a problem even in far as the children may only be receiving one meal a day type of thing because of their income. Is there any relationship at all with respect to child abuse and I guess certain family situations with respect to whether the type of accommodation they live in, or I don't know if there's any correlation with respect to that at the lower end, if people are at a low income bracket, is there more child abuse versus ones that middle class or above, that type of thing?
I don't think that, obviously, wouldn't collect any data in relation to that, but anecdotally, probably it's correct in thinking so, that because of those stressors, that there's a more apt to lash out and whatnot. I think we are, like I said, there's a real gray area of the understanding of what's appropriate discipline, and whether it's socioeconomic or new to the country, the lack of understanding of what's appropriate, and often they're picking up whether it's a belt, a shoe, and the Children's Aid Society is very clear in understanding that that's viewed as a weapon, and that's inappropriate discipline, and a lot of those are leading to charges and or criminal cautions.
Okay, no, and the other question I had through you, Mr. Chair, is there's an increase in investigations according to this report from 06 to 07. Is that, if you put it into perspective with respect to the growth of Peel, is it pretty stable, or is there an actual increase in child abuse?
I would think that's probably pretty stable, but as the chief indicated, I think that there's more of it's a wider range of duty to report. So we're getting more referrals from schools and from hospitals in relation to a child at risk.
Okay. And, I mentioned to my colleague here that, just one call is one too many.
Right.
And certainly anything we can do to try to prevent this type of action is very helpful to the community, for sure. Thank you.
Well, thanks very much for your insight into the thing, and thanks for being here this morning.
Great.
Thank you, Scott. Thank you, Gil.